It's Mock Draft Monday, which of course means another mock draft. Been pumping these out, but today we're going to have a bit of a twist. Now, it has nothing really to do with free agency frenzy that's in full swing. Video on that later. Getting a double upload today. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not subscribed already. Really just help me out a lot, and of course you guys won't miss a video. So scroll down, make sure you're subscribed. Free agency video tonight talking about all of the biggest moves. There were a ton of them and some minor ones, of course, as well. We like to be pretty thorough on this channel. Even, from Mitch Morse going to the Jags to replace Luke Fortner, all the way up to Saquon Barkley leaving the Giants to join the Philadelphia Eagles. So still processing that one. A lot of pain, of course, even if it was the best move for the organization. Anyway, we're going to be talking a lot more about that later. Not right now. Today, we have Mock Draft Monday with a twist. What is that twist? Well, I am not allowed to draft the same position to the same team that I did in the previous mock draft. So the last mock draft was only about a week ago, 6 days ago, maybe even in 7 now. And we had some of the usual things happening. The Bears taking a QB. The Commanders taking a QB. I mixed it up and had the Patriots going with a receiver, even though that's usually been a QB for me. And then I had the Cardinals going with a receiver, as I always do. But of course, that happened down the board at 11 with Brian Thomas Jr. Vikings moved up for a quarterback. Here is the complete draft. And I am not allowed to do any of these positions. For a team that has multiple first-round picks like the Cardinals, it still applies. They are not allowed to take a receiver. They are not allowed to take an edge rusher. All of these positions to all of these teams where the Cardinals always take a receiver, the Titans always take a tackle, the Jets always take a tackle. I'm not allowed to do any of those, and we're going to mix it up today. The results on this are really, really fun, so stick around, and let's jump into things at number 1. And of course, this is an exercise. It's an experiment, and we're still getting news breaking on free agency frenzy right now. We'll have a post-free agency mock draft next week, I'm sure, but some of those moves are already going to be factored in. Keep that in mind. The Bears at number 1, they're going to stick and pick and take a QB. But we are not allowed to do that today. So if you've been begging for me to build around Justin Fields for the last year, well, we're finally going to do it today because the Bears are not allowed to take a QB. Does that mean they stick and pick? No, of course not, because teams want these top quarterbacks. Somebody's got to move up. Keep in mind, you cannot trade 2026 picks at all in here. And we're not sure exactly what's going to happen here, but I'm going to have the Patriots move up to number 1. Now, everyone's saying about the Patriots that, oh, the Patriots, they can't take a QB. The roster's not good enough. We never see it work the other way around. A team doesn't say, oh, we can just find a quarterback later. Yeah, it's happened with the Patriots 25 years ago. You have your Brock Purdy's. He's played well with the 49ers. There are instances where it does happen. You can get solid quarterback play down the board. But if you're picking up at the top of the draft and don't intend to be for the future, which should be the case for every team that's trying to win, well, you take your quarterback here early. And if it only would cost the Patriots a first-round pick to do it and go up to get your QB, well, you would do it. Teams are not built exclusively on first-round picks. You have the entire rest of the draft to really build out the rest of your roster. Rosters are built and made about development in the second and third days. That's it. I mean, that's an incredibly crucial part of success is not what you get on day 1 of the draft, but the subsequent days. That's extremely important. And to make things even more interesting, let's add Justin Fields and maybe number 102 from the Patriots, or a 4th-round pick next year. The value on Justin Fields is not incredible, so if you can go out and get a bridge QB and still a QB in the draft, this is, I understand, a wild trade. It's just for the experiment. So the Patriots grab their bridge QB for maybe a year, and then a QB they can build around for the future, and that ends up being Caleb Williams. I do not believe that Justin Fields is going to fetch a monster return via trade. It seems like the market is not very strong for him. The Raiders were reportedly kicking the tires on that, and then they just went out and signed Gardner Minshew to compete with, Aiden O'Connell. So I wouldn't say that Justin Fields has an incredible amount of options at this point. So he's thrown in there, and maybe that would incentivize the Patriots to let go of that first-round pick next year. This is a really good return for the Pats. Of course, you are trading multiple first-round picks, and the Bears are trading Justin Fields, but they're only moving down a couple of spots. You know QBs are going to go at 1 and 2 anyway. You can still take the best non-QB in the entire draft. I think it makes sense on the Chicago side, where they don't really have a lot of leverage right now. Of course, you can say that the number 1 overall pick has leverage, and it does, and you can get a lot more if you move down with maybe the Giants. Falcons no longer need a quarterback. They got Kirk Cousins today. The Vikings could. The Broncos, Raiders could. Today, I can't have the Vikings move up for a QB, but they're running out of potential possibilities for Justin Fields, and you're not going to trade him to the Vikings anyway, because that's a division rival. So the Patriots end up moving up. They get Justin Fields and Caleb Williams. It's a wild start, but we have to have the wild start at the start because this is the point of the entire video. It works better for teams down the board to mix it up rather than the teams that we pretty much know are locked into a QB, but I digress. You need to have another trade happen here at number 2. And the Commanders, I think, are going to take a QB, right? But in the event that Sam Howell is the guy they decide to stick with for another year, well, they could just opt to build up the rest of the team. And offensive line would be an incredible need. I think that does happen at some point. But, you know, they're going to be unlikely to trade with the Giants, who are rumored to move up for a QB, because that's another division rival. Now, these interdivision trades do happen in the draft, just typically not for a quarterback. You just don't really want to give your division rival the franchise QB that could hurt you for the next 5, 10, 15 years in some cases, right? So not going to have that happen, but another team is going to have to move up here. We know it can't be the Vikings. We know it probably is not going to be the Falcons anymore with getting Kirk Cousins. So who's it going to be? I personally can't have it being the Broncos or the Vikings because I had them taking quarterbacks in the last mock draft. So we're going to have the Raiders play uber aggressively and move up to the number 2 overall pick from number 13. It is a massive jump. I understand. That's the experiment for today. Raiders move up for QB. We know already about the Antonio Pierce connection to Jaden Daniels, and getting Gardner Minshew would not stop you from moving up for a QB. I want to make that abundantly clear. That's just, you know, getting more guys in the room to compete for that job. I don't think that would stop the Raiders from trying to find the franchise guy. Again, we talked about the history already with Antonio Pierce and Jaden Daniels at Arizona State. The Raiders now are moving up for a QB. I can't trade 2026 picks, but it would likely be 3 first-round picks to move all the way up here. It would be in 2024, 2025, 2026, maybe even other picks as well. Today, I'll make it, you know, 2 1s and 2 2s. It's a lot to move up, but you're also getting your franchise guy. You signed Christian Wilkins today. Big help on the interior of your defensive line. They're going for it. Might as well move up for a big-time QB, and that's what I'm going to have happen here with Jaden Daniels at number 2 overall to the Raiders, who are really trying to go all in. I know this is an insane start to this draft. I fully can appreciate that, but that's what I'm doing today. It'll start to make a lot more sense as we move down the board, and especially here at number 3. If you're not rocking out with a quarterback at number 1 and you move down, Justin Fields stays the guy for now, but you got to get playmakers around him, and who better than Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 3? One of the best players, if not the best player in this entire draft. He does everything so well. Not maybe a huge run after catch threat. You have DJ Moore for that. Harrison Jr. does everything else at such an incredibly high level. Just get him the football, and Justin Fields is going to be the guy that does it for this next season, at least in this scenario. Cardinals at number 4. This is always a receiver for me. Always. Whether it's Harrison Jr., Neighbors, or Odunze, it's always a receiver. I can't do that today. Based on what we're doing, this absolutely needs to be another position. Absolutely. So, what happens? Last time it was Brian Thomas Jr. after a trade down to number 11. What do we do here? Well, it is another trade up. With Drake May sticking on the board, the Giants move up from 6 to 4 to take their franchise guy, and that is going to be Drake May. Maybe you don't do that at 2 or 3, but if he sticks on the board for another pick and you just have to jump up, you know, from the Chargers, other teams would be trying to trade up. It's not about the Chargers taking a QB, obviously, but, you know, the Vikings could be in that mix. Of course, I can't have that happen today. The Broncos could be in that mix, but the Giants move up to 4. Take that franchise guy. He's an incredible talent. Again, as I've talked about, I think he's QB 1A and 1B with Caleb Williams in the draft. I have not wavered on that whatsoever. I think he's a great player. Needs to clean some things up, but overall, a great player who has an experience playing behind a terrible offensive line with a lack of weapons and still making the most of it. Well, hey, who does that remind you of? That sounds like the New York Football Giants to me, as upsetting as that is. I have a lot to say, and I'll talk about that tonight on the free agent video about Saquon Barkley and John Runyon coming and Devin Singletary coming to the Giants and Xavier McKinney leaving. There's a lot to talk about, but not for right now. Drake May lasts at 4. Giants move up for their QB of the future, and it only costs a first-round pick next year to do it, only moving up a couple of spots. So I think this totally makes sense. And then the Chargers at number 5. Last time it was an offensive tackle in Joe Alt. Joe Alt not available because we can't take a tackle in this scenario. So I think it makes perfect sense that it would be Malik Neighbors. Your receiver situation is very bizarre right now with Josh Palmer, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen not slated to be on the team by 2025. Receiver depth is something that's super important for this team. And not Brock Bowers today. It's tough to take a tight end at number 5. And I still think it's a possibility. Maybe after a trade down, maybe it's a tackle, but can't be a tackle today. So Malik Neighbors, one of the best players in this draft, makes perfect sense at number 5. As we get to the Cardinals at 6, can't be a receiver as we know. And I don't think it has to be, because Joe Alt is available at number 6, maybe the best tackle in this draft. This means you can keep Paris Johnson Jr. at right tackle. Joe Alt plug and play over on that left side. We know it's a need for them. Don't have any type of significant attachment to DJ Humphries in the future, so Joe Alt makes perfect sense. This could be an edge rusher, right? Dallas Turner could be a possibility here at number 6, but the top tackles on the board. It's an incredibly stacked tackle class, so maybe they would opt to wait for one at 27 or move up. But Joe Alt at number 6, why wait when you can get him there? I think that makes perfect sense. And here's another team where it's always been a tackle for me. Always, always, always. And people have said, you know, you look at GM Rand Carthon, apparently these guys have said we're going to take a receiver. Maybe not so clear of words, but that's the sentiment, is that they're going to take a receiver. I don't know why people are believing that. All of a sudden, it's draft season. There are smoke screens. A team is not just going to tell you exactly what they're going to do, and then they do that. Yeah, it's a possibility they could take a receiver, but I think it's more likely this is an offensive tackle. Even if they've come out and said, you know, we're going to prioritize receiver in the draft, you have more than just your first-round pick. You don't have to take a receiver at number 7. I don't care what they said. They're not locked into that. They didn't say it, and then it has to be true now, no matter what happens. I just want that to be clear. I don't know why people are believing this at this time of the year. You can't believe anything. But in this scenario, you're going to get your wish because we can't go with a tackle. It's going to be receiver, and Roma Dunze has made it to 7 in this scenario, and he is one of the best 7 players in this draft very comfortably, maybe even better than that. Titans desperately need an upgrade at receiver. Roma Dunze, are you kidding me, at number 7? It's a great pick for a team that desperately needs more playmakers, about as desperately as they need offensive tackle help, and they really, really do need offensive tackle help. But, I mean, it's the team of the hour, right? The Falcons at number 8. You go out and get Kirk Cousins. Top 3 receivers are off the board. I think this makes the pick pretty easy for you. Maybe you could consider a QB here, but Dallas Turner, who I've said pretty much the entire draft cycle, I believe to be the first defensive player off the board, is available at number 8. Perfect fit for the Falcons' 3-4 defense with, of course, Raheem Morris coming in. It's a match made in heaven for Dallas Turner. Now, I talked about him being, you know, prototype, built in a lab 3-4 outside linebacker last video, and then I had him going to the 4-3 Chicago Bears. I still think he could play 4-3 defensive end. Weak side defensive end at 6'3", 250 is not absolutely unheard of. He's such a great player, but obviously a better fit in a 3-4, and he goes to a 3-4 team. He goes to a 3-4 team here at the Falcons at 8. First defensive player off the board. It's kind of what I think is going to happen, and the Cardinals could be a dark horse to take him at number 4. I know that seems wild, but it's a possibility. At number 9, the Chicago Bears can't take a receiver, obviously. Can't take a QB. So what do we do? Well, things are about to get very, very interesting with the fall of Brock Bowers in this draft. He's available at number 9. And oh my goodness, we already have Cole Kmet. What a mistake. What have I done? Well, you don't need to only have one or the other. Not mutually exclusive. For Brock Bowers, think of it like Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid with the Buffalo Bills. Both can be on the field at the same time. Both can play an impact. And if we're building around Justin Fields in this scenario, well, this is a pretty good way to do it, because You keep your QB, right? The offensive line, you're not going to go out and get a tackle. Your tackles seem to be set for me. Braxton Jones at left tackle, Darnell Wright at right tackle. Maybe it's a guard here, but you have Tevin Jenkins and Nate Davis. You really need a center more than anything. Is this a little bit too high for a center? I think so. But for Brock Bowers, he ends up being your big slot receiver, your move piece, your H-back. You can have Marvin Harrison Jr. and DJ Moore on the outside. Cole Kmet can be your inline tight end, but get Brock Bowers in the slot, move him around, have him catch screens like he did at Georgia. This is a tremendous overall weapon, not just an inline tight end. He's still a little bit on the undersized side. If you look at his playing weight, at least, I know he came in at the combine a little bit heavier. Struggles against defensive ends as a run blocker. Is overall a great run blocker against linebackers, DBs, but defensive ends are just a little bit bigger for him. And who knows if that's going to be a problem that he fixes at the NFL level. Just about being bigger and having more functional strength to take on those bigger defensive ends. But Bowers doesn't have to in this scenario. Cole Kmet can be your inline guy. Bowers can move around. And now you continue to build around Justin Fields. You can't do much better than this. DJ Moore, Marvin Harrison Jr., Cole Kmet, and Brock Bowers. You better find ways to put points on the board with that group of playmakers. As we get to the Jets at number 10, it's always a tackle for me. Always, always, always. Well, I can't do that today. And I think it's particularly interesting because this is one of those teams that has always been the same. Like, I don't think I've ever really mixed up the Jets pick or the Titans, really, or the Cardinals. It's always the same position, even if the name changes. But we can't take a tackle today. So that creates a little bit of a conundrum because what do? Very unfamiliar names to this team at this point. And based on their needs, you know, I'm not sure if Byron Murphy ends up being the pick. I don't think it's an edge rusher. I know you lose Bryce Huff. I don't think this is an edge rusher. You have Michael Clemens and Carl Lawson at the very back end of the rotation. Of course, John Franklin Myers is like your hybrid move around guy. But you drafted Will McDonald in the first round last year. You still have Jermaine Johnson. I don't think edge depth is a problem for this team whatsoever, that you would have to take one at number 10. Even though Jared Verse might be interesting here. He might be. But I'm going to go down the board a little bit here for PFF and take someone that I think could go a lot higher in the actual draft. And that's Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. And this is a name that might be a little bit earlier than you're used to seeing. I would not be surprised to see this happen on draft night, that he gets, you know, pushed up near the top 10. This is a receiver who enjoyed an awesome breakout season for LSU this past year, who is one of the bigger receivers in the entire draft. 6'3", about 210 pounds, was 209 at the combine. Came out and ran a 4.33, and that's not surprising. He runs very fast on tape. He led college football in receiving touchdowns. And if you look at the list here, he's at 17 touchdowns. You have Jalen Royals from Utah State at 15. Nobody at 16. Only one player at 15. And then some of the best receivers in college football at 14 and 13. Harrison Jr., Neighbors, Odunze. Of course, Troy Franklin had a really great season. Luke McCaffrey's a solid option, you know, down the board in this draft. Adonai Mitchell with 11. Keon Coleman in that same range. A bunch of great receivers. Brian Thomas Jr. had 17. Caught 68 balls for over 1,100 yards. Averaging 17 yards a catch. This is a legit receiver prospect. Is the best option beyond the top three guys that we've heard about this entire cycle: Harrison, Neighbors, Odunze. Thomas Jr. is not to be slept on. And if you can't take a tackle here, why not take a big-time playmaking receiver to add with Aaron Rodgers? You already have Garrett Wilson, but not much else is there. Thomas Jr. is a really nice combo to Garrett Wilson because they're such different players. But Thomas Jr. is a big-time deep threat with good hands and is a burner with size, great movement ability for that size. He is a tremendous talent. Get used to seeing him higher in these drafts because he's not going, in my opinion, at the back end of the first round, you know, at 29 or 30 in that range, even though those are teams that are unlikely to take a receiver, right? 28, 32. I think he's someone that more likely goes in the top 20. And at number 10 to the Jets with the top three receivers off the board, and you cannot take a tackle because of this exercise, I think this is a real legitimate possibility and a great fit. All right, a lot is happening between number 10 and now. The Giants are potentially trading for Brian Burns. We'll see what happens with that. Chidobe Awuzie to the Titans again. I'll be talking about everything in a video tonight. Maybe Brian Burns gets his own dedicated video. But back to the mock draft. Just a lot is happening right now. Anyway, Vikings at number 11 cannot go with a quarterback. However, do they go with an edge rusher? After signing Andrew Van Ginkel, after signing Jonathan Grenard from the Texans, I'm not sure that they would. However, the interior of their defensive line could certainly be improved. Byron Murphy, the second out of Texas, is available here, of course. Get your horns up, hook 'em. Byron Murphy to the Vikings, who joins Byron Murphy of the Vikings. Byron Murphy Jr. and Byron Murphy the second. Or is it Byron Murphy the second and Byron Murphy the second? I think it's Jr. in the second. Interesting combo, but could still be an edge rusher, but not today. Broncos at number 12. We know we can't go with the QB because of JJ McCarthy, but there is a significant need at corner. I think maybe this would have been an interior defensive lineman had Byron Murphy got to number 12 overall. They do need edge. Jared Verse could be in play, but I think getting a CB2 on the other side of Pat Surtain should be the priority here for Denver. And Terrion Arnold makes an awesome Alabama Roll Tide connection with Pat Surtain. I feel like it's a perfect fit for two very good, technically sound corners. And Terrion Arnold, this guy he's got average speed, 4.5 at the combine, but plays faster, plays the run really well, excellent cover skills, maybe the best pure corner in this draft. And he goes to a team that desperately needs an upgrade at number 12. And now the Commanders all the way back at 13. Are you kidding me? Well, it happened today. And we know they have needs on the offensive line. And Olu Fashanu has somehow made it to 13. Elisa Fuaga is still available. Troy Faatanu, JC Latham, Marius Mims. All the top tackles are on the board still. And Fashanu ends up being the pick. There were thoughts that this could be, a top 5 pick for the Commanders earlier in the year, connecting Olu Fashanu. I think he is from the DMV area. Kind of a perfect fit there. And you continue to build around Sam Howell, you get more draft capital. Obviously, building around Sam Howell is a bizarre, decision. But they get one of the best tackles in the entire draft here at 13. Feels amazing in a stacked tackle class. At number 14, have the Saints. Last time with the Saints, it was a tackle. Can't do that today, but Jared Verse is still here. So Jared Verse will be the selection at number 14. Again, kind of feels like a no-brainer. Now, maybe that could have been a quarterback in JJ McCarthy, but maybe the Saints just opt to stick out with, Derek Carr for now with his big contract. Could still be a QB, but they also really need help all over their team on, both sides of the line, offensive and defensive. Jared Verse ends up helping you out on the edge. Really good player at number 14. We get to the Colts at 15. Last time around, it was a corner, and I think I've really wanted the opportunity to get a non-DB in that at this spot, and getting a big-time pass catcher for them I think would be huge. And it's going to be Adonai Mitchell for me. Hook'em horns, of course. I get that you bring back Michael Pittman Jr. I love that for them, but you need more. Josh Downs is a great slot option, no question. But what else do you have on the outside? Alec Pierce is just a deep threat. I'm not sure he's an every down type player. I think you guys would agree with that. So getting Adonai Mitchell into the receiving room, the size at receiver, and the athleticism is going to be really tough for teams to match up against. Adonai Mitchell is a great route runner at very big size overall, 6'2 plus, 200 plus pounds, and a really great fit in Indianapolis. Get more playmakers for Anthony Richardson. Seahawks at 16. Well, things get interesting here. I had an edge last time around, Jared Verse. But again, we're going to get very interesting here. Now, I've done something like this before with offensive line, but we're going to take a tackle. But we're not taking a tackle to play tackle. And I'm going to really mix it up today and go with Talisa Fuaga from Oregon State. Get to keep him somewhat local in the Pacific Northwest, and we're drafting him to play guard. Now, Fuaga, I think, can stick at right tackle, but with slightly shorter arms, and some teams reportedly already viewing him as a guard just because of his mauling ability on the edge there at right tackle. Well, moving him inside to guard could make him one of the best in the league potential-wise. He's already amazing as a run blocker, and getting him out there with, Abe Lucas at right tackle could form one of the better young duos in the league at right guard and right tackle. So Fuaga playing right guard here for the Seahawks in this scenario. Yes, it could be Faatanu at left guard. Maybe Damian Lewis is lost. Maybe it's Jackson Powers Johnson at center or guard. All possibilities, but Fuaga, if you view him as, Pro Bowl, All-Pro potential as a guard, it makes plenty of sense here at 16. Jags at 17. Well, last time around, I had the Jags going with not a tackle, I can tell you that. So we're just going to go with Troy Faatanu from the Washington Huskies. Now, the idea here with Faatanu is he gives you flexibility across the entire offensive line. Yes, you sign Mitch Morse to play center. Big need secured. You bring back Brandon Sheriff to play right guard, and he's one of the better ones in the league. And in a world where I can't take a corner here, the Jags signed Gabe Davis today, so it's, I'm probably not going to go receiver. Josh Allen is franchise tagged. I think a potential future starting left tackle fits the bill. I don't really believe in Cam Robinson's potential long-term in Jacksonville. They made a number of big signings today, by the way. Darnell Savage, not that he's anything special, but they made a bunch of moves. I think they brought in Will Lutz as well. Faatanu has starting potential at left tackle, and if you get an injury to anyone on the offensive line, whether it's Sheriff, who I think has had some injury troubles in the past, maybe not so much with Jacksonville, but I think he's out for a season, or at least some of it with Washington. But, Ezra Cleveland's down there now as well. Even if Cam Robinson gets hurt or suspended again, Faatanu can come in and play a number of different positions on the O-line and be a franchise caliber left tackle for you down the line. So this is kind of a prep pick, but he's got the length to stay at tackle, certainly the movement skills. Didn't know how long his arms would be, but they checked in at 34 plus inches, I want to say. So it's definitely starting tackle type size. Think he can do it, and think it's a great pick here at 17. Bengals at 18 has mostly been a tackle spot for me. Geno Stone signed with them most recently. Of course, we can't go with the tackle today because of the precedent set in the previous mock draft with Amarius Mims. However, what we can absolutely do is upgrade the interior of the defensive line. It is a big need for the Bengals. I don't want to make the lazy comparison that Jerzon Newton to Geno Atkins, because nobody's really Geno Atkins. He was a tremendous player for a while, but a slightly undersized interior defensive lineman with a ton of burst up the field. There are similarities we can draw there, and Johnny Newton is a big-time, explosive interior defensive lineman that is super fun to watch. As fun to watch as really any interior defensive lineman in this draft. As a pass rusher, even as a run defender, he lives in the backfield. It's all about getting upfield and being a disruptor for Johnny Newton. I like it here at 18. And for the Rams here at 19, last time I went with the corner, Nate Wiggins, and this could be a tackle with great ones falling. But I'll tell you, I think you could also prepare for life after Matthew Stafford. There still is a window with Stafford, but in a world where J.J. McCarthy falls, and you can team him up, I should say, with Sean McVay to develop him, I feel like it's an unbelievable fit. He does not have to start right away. He can develop. And then if Stafford gets injured the way, he has in years past, or if he just ends up not being the guy in a year or two, you can have J.J. McCarthy step in there after years of development with one of the best offensive minds in football. Sky is the limit. And I think J.J. McCarthy would be a really fun fit here with the Rams. And he gets to hang out in L.A. with his former head coach, Jim Harbaugh, albeit not on the same team. Not sure how often that would happen. But Steelers at number 20. It's almost always a tackle for me. There are great corners on the board. I went with Troy Faatanu last time. And Broderick Jones is expected to play left tackle, so maybe it wouldn't be a pure left tackle. Maybe it could be one of the better right tackles in the draft. J.C. Latham is so good. You have Jackson Powers Johnson to step in and be your starting center right away, and I'm going to do that this time around. Latham makes a ton of sense. Plug and play starting right tackle, but Jackson Powers Johnson plug and play starting center. So which do you prefer? The value says tackle, but the way some of these interior offensive linemen are getting paid today, Robert Hunt got $100 million over 5 years. It makes the Kevin Dotson deal look like a steal. You know, it makes the Jonah Jackson deal look like a steal. Rams killing it with these guards. But Jackson Powers Johnson, immediate starting center. I think that's worth it at 20. Commanders just got Frankie Louvu. Really good player. Unsung hero. Of course, I went out and got him in Falcons franchise year 1. But I care about the Madden stuff, but I don't, not right now. I care more about what the Dolphins are doing at 21. And I mean, it makes too much sense. I had the Dolphins trading up last time for Brock Bowers. So unless this is Jatavion Sanders, which it isn't, they could do any number of things here. And I think the one for me that makes the most sense, you could talk about corner, a lot of good corner still on the board. I'm going to go J.C. Latham from Bama. It's a future starting right tackle. He's very good, blindside protector for Tua. Who knows how long Teron Armstead's going to stay in Miami. Of course, he is your left tackle. I get that. You also have question marks with Austin Jackson at right tackle. Latham is the guy of the future. And I think a really nice pickup at 21. It could go a number of different ways with this one. I think they need to address the offensive line. And currently, of the guys still available, it's really all right tackles. Latham, Mims, Guyton, all right tackles. Barton's going to move inside. Morgan might move inside to guard. Barton might move to center. And Suamataia probably not worth it here at 21. Although he could potentially be a starting left tackle. Latham here is just such a great player. He falls to 21. I feel like it's kind of a no-brainer for Miami. At number 22, we have the Eagles, very active today. Got Saquon Barkley. Got Bryce Huff. Big-time additions, potentially trading Hassan Reddick, maybe even Josh Sweat as well. But what do we do here at number 22? Well, last time around, we went the corner in Cooper DeJean, and call him a defensive back, so can't take a corner, but we can take a tackle in Amarius Mims. You know, the Eagles absolutely love to take the big boys up front. Pause. But Amarius Mims is a freak athlete. Unbelievable size at right tackle. And when you already have your freak, awesome, left tackle in Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, awesome player. No question. Hall of Famer. What's his future like in Philadelphia? Well, if you don't think he's going to be there in 4 years, you take Amarius Mims. Even if you don't think he's going to be there in 3 years or 2 years, you obviously take Amarius Mims. You develop him with, unquestionably the best offensive line coach in the league in Jeff Stoutland. I don't think I'm, dropping a hot take there on you. You continue to build into that strength, and Amarius Mims is certainly very strong. At number 23, you have the Texans. Very interesting, because the Texans lost Jonathan Grenard today, but did sign Denico Autry. It's not a one-for-one replacement. They play different positions on the D-line. Denico Autry is like your typical 3-4 end, whereas, you have Grenard, your typical edge player, your true edge, 3-4 outside linebacker. Do you want to replace him? Well, apparently, Leatu Latu's injury stuff maybe isn't as clear-cut as it looked, and maybe he's going to be off quite a few draft boards. Maybe he's not the pick here at 23. Great player, one of my favorite players in the draft, but injury stuff could present a problem. However, the corners are falling, and this is a really talented cornerback class at the top. Quinyon Mitchell is going to be the pick for me today here out of Toledo. You really need to go out and get a big CB2. This could be an edge rusher. The top 2 interior defensive linemen are off the board. Today, we're going to go with a corner. Quinyon Mitchell's really good and would present a super athletic pairing with Derek Stingley. Yet your CB duo of the future. Yes, I could totally see this being an edge rusher. I was very tempted by Chop Robinson here. Again, the injury stuff scares me with Latu. I'm hearing it could play a very big impact. We'll see what happens. Cowboys at 24. Well, last time around for the Cowboys, I went with Jackson Powers Johnson at 24. So we took a center. So we can't take a center now, but it's not really going to be too big of a problem. You really need tackle. Tyron Smith is going to be leaving in free agency. Not going to be a running back here despite losing Tony Pollard. Tyler Guyton just makes the most sense. Yes, maybe it could be a receiver, but the top receivers kind of flew off the board. The top 5 were already gone. I know Gallup's not going to be there long term, but you really need a tackle. You could upgrade at both right and left. Guyton is athletic enough to maybe he can slide over to play left tackle, but presents obvious starting upside at right tackle. Either way, tackle is a huge position of need for Dallas. Get Tyler Guyton here at 24. I don't think it's bad value at all. He was great at the Senior Bowl as well. And then at number 25, you have a team that was very active today. The Packers went out and signed Josh Jacobs. They cut Aaron Jones. They signed Xavier McKinney. Massive additions and subtractions. They were extremely active today. Lost John Runyon Jr. at guard as well. I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem to replace him. I know he went to the Giants. He's fine. I don't think more or less. But this is not a Giants video. We'll talk more about that later. But for the Packers, well, we know you don't need a running back anymore. Safety still is a need, but maybe not at 25. I think I'm going to go with Edgerrin Cooper here. We took a corner last time around in Kool-Aid McKinstry, so we can't take a corner. But if we go with linebacker Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M, he fills an immediate need. You cut Devondre Campbell. Quay Walker probably moves into that role. Edgerrin Cooper can play more of an outside linebacker type role. Not like, of course, in the 3-4, he's not going to be an edge rusher, but he's, more of a hybrid type guy. And he's got exceptional speed, great athlete, and more than anything, it just feels like a Packers pick. If you're going to take Quay Walker at, 23-ish, it was around that. You're going to take Edgerrin Cooper at 25. Should form one of the more athletic linebacker duos in the league, and Edgerrin Cooper can actually work in coverage. So really fun fit for Green Bay. Not going to be a DB with this pick because I'm not allowed to, but linebackers certainly in play. And we know Green Bay typically doesn't take offensive linemen in the first round. Or a receiver. We'll see if that continues the case. At number 26, at the Tampa Bay Bucks. Last time around, it was an edge rusher, Leatu Latu. I can't do that today, but Nate Wiggins makes a tremendous amount of sense. They need cornerback really badly, and if it can't be an edge rusher, cornerback certainly helps. They have a couple of good ones already, but depth is not there, and Nate Wiggins does present starting upside. Of course, tremendous athlete, came out and ran 4.28 at the combine. Very, very fast, and he's fast if you watched him as well. Not so great as a run defender. That's a big kind of flaw for him, but very good in coverage. I love what I see as a cover player from Nate Wiggins. Excellent, speed to trigger downhill, and has showed great hustle in the past as well. Just run defense, bit of a problem. At number 27, last time it was Chop Robinson. Can't be an edge rusher, can't be a receiver. We went with the tackle earlier, so we have to go in a different direction, and it has to be a corner, and that's Cooper DeJean. He offers, starting upside at corner and safety. I think if you look at Budda Baker and his versatility, you could see similar traits of Cooper DeJean. He's such a great tackler. Play in the slot, he can play on the outside. He can stick as a boundary cornerback, I promise you. He has the size and speed to be able to do it. Big time player and great value at 27 to a team that really just needs upgrades all over the place. Cardinals are not a great roster. Cooper DeJean certainly helps you. Bills at 28. Well, the Bills absolutely need help at receiver, edge, DB. What do you take? Well, I think maybe if Cooper DeJean was on the board, that was the pick. So it's Kool-Aid McKinstry, maybe Ennis Rakestraw, Kamari Lassiter. However, Von Miller has been such a disappointment. How about you get a super freak athlete off the edge in Chop Robinson to be the young understudy? Von Miller's contract was reworked. I still don't think you can count on him long-term. Injuries are stacking up. Production, even when he was healthy, was not very good. Chop Robinson has big-time potential. If you can develop him, you've got something special. His first step is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's unbelievable. His ability to get upfield is insane. Chop Robinson is a big-time help on the edge, and it never hurts to have a rotation either. You get that guy in at third downs immediately as a designated pass rusher, he's going to cause a ton of problems. He's just too fast for tackles to be able to handle a lot of the time. And you get to the Lions at 29. Again, Leatu Latu scares me a little bit, but he's such a good player that the value is becoming tough to ignore. It really is. However, I also think the value on Darius Robinson's very good here. He's a versatile defensive lineman. I would say 3-4 versatile, but if you look at the Lions, I think with Darius Robinson, base 4-3 starting defensive end. I think that's fine. He's got incredible size. 6'5", 285. I know it says 296 here. Came in at the combine at 285. But can also play interior defensive line. He's got that type of size and ability. And if you bring him as an interior player on obvious rush downs as well, like third and long, for example, he is going to wreak havoc on the offensive lineman. He's too good for guards. The speed on the inside is pretty incredible, but he's also strong enough to be a base starting end on rundowns. So he offers you a ton of flexibility and versatility. If you're looking for more of a true edge, Laiatu Latu. If you're looking for someone that can do a lot of different things for you, and we know the Lions can get a lot out of some of these guys, Darius Robinson makes a ton of sense to me because of what he adds versatility-wise. Again, base starting defensive end, maybe in nickel packages, he slides inside. That's kind of my thinking there. And, of course, it wouldn't have to be just if they're coming out in nickel. I'm just thinking something where DB's on the field, defending the pass. Know it's going to be a pass. Think it's going to be a pass. Get Robinson in there, anywhere from 3 to 5 technique and have him go to work. So it could be fun to see all his various different alignments and what it would mean for the pass rush of the Lions. Could be a ton of fun. At number 30, have the Baltimore Ravens. And the Ravens have been a tackle team really for me for a while. I've considered cornerback as well. I've considered defensive line. Here it was Darius Robinson. Robinson's no longer on the board. We can't take an edge rusher with this pick. We could take a corner. We could take a tackle. Now, the top tackles are kind of gone. Barton, I could see getting into the first round as a versatile O-lineman, not necessarily a tackle. Morgan, kind of that same deal. Edge, of course, we're not allowed to take. So I think the decision's kind of been made for us. You're able to bring back Justin Madubuike. Interior defensive lineman, not really as much of a need anymore. Corner still is. Kool-Aid McKinstry, Alabama DB to the Ravens. I know Ozzy's not making the picks anymore. It's Eric DeCosta. EDC hasn't been so attached to those Alabama players, but Ozzie Newsome's still within the organization. And Kool-Aid McKinstry might just be the best value at this pick. Offers you, a ton of patience and great zone ability at the boundary starting cornerback position. At number 31, you have the 49ers. This has often been an offensive lineman for me. Pretty much always been an offensive lineman for me. It was Tyler Guyton last week. This week, it cannot be an offensive tackle. So I could cheat and go Graham Barton, who's listed at tackle, but he's going to play center probably in the league. Or I could do something else entirely. I'm going to go with a corner. I'm going to go with Ennis Rakestraw from Mizzou. Actually, a really great fit for the system. And if you look at Ennis Rakestraw, he's a solid athlete. Didn't test crazy well, but solid athlete. Very physical, can come up and press, can come up and tackle. Really nice player. Could definitely sneak into the first round. 49ers are a team that upgrade at corner. Ennis Rakestraw fits the bill. And then wrapping things up with the Chiefs, who are almost always a receiver for me. I'm not allowed to do that this time around. Last week, it was Xavier Worthy. This week, it has to be somebody different. And I know they need upgrades on the interior of that defensive line. And we could sneak somebody in. Back of the matter remains that the Chiefs really need an upgrade at tackle. All these teams in the AFC West loading up on defensive line talent. And Donovan Smith at left tackle just doesn't really stack up for me. Jordan Morgan could certainly stick at left tackle and be a starting option. And at 32, I think that presents decent value. The Chiefs need to protect Patrick Mahomes. He is your franchise. You can find receiver later down the board. It's a stacked receiver class. Go up and trade for one, but you certainly need tackle help as well. It's a talented tackle class. The tackles are flying off the board. It might be now or never at number 32 if you don't trade up. But that is the mock draft today. I really love how it turned out because it's so different from what I usually do. Obviously, some craziness at the top of the draft with the QB trades. All of that's not going to happen, but it really creates a great opportunity down the board for other teams to do something I'm typically not doing for them. Yes, there are some similarities. Like, I often have the Broncos taking a corner. That's kind of stayed the same. I think it's a real position of need for them. I often have the... What else is similar in here? I often have the Cardinals going corner. I often have the Cowboys going with a tackle. Often have the Steelers going with O-line help, but pretty awesome mock draft for me. It's very bizarre. I think people are going to hate it mostly, but these represent realistic possibilities for player to team fits that I really haven't explored that much this year. So that's a mock draft. Come back later for free agency frenzy. Hopefully a Brian Burns reaction. I'd be set up for tremendous disappointment, or I have already set myself up for tremendous disappointment if that does not end up coming to fruition. But thank you so much for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.